am joined today with Jason Webb from Lintech International. Jason, thanks so much for coming today and speaking with me and sharing some of your story.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me.
So the background is I was Jason's account manager before and have stayed in touch with all the work that they're doing with Qlik. So wanted to have him on because customer stories are great. And just before we started, we were laughing about some of the mistakes made and all that stuff. So we're going to get into it today and just kind of discuss where things started and where they are currently. So Jason, share a little bit about Lintech International, what the company does, your role in the company.
Yeah, so Lintech International is a chemical distribution company. We're based out of Macon, Georgia. Been in business, I think, celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. Basically, the core of our business is we distribute, packaged chemicals to a number of different markets, whether it be rubber, plastics, coatings, adhesives, those kinds of markets, and serve primarily the small to mid-size customers within those markets, and sometimes get into the larger ones. But those are typically handled by the manufacturers. And so my current role with the company is Vice President of Technology and Sales Operations, which is a weird mix of roles, right? So I have IT, marketing, and then our technology group or sales operations group, I guess, is more or less the product and technical managers with the company. And so the marketing and sales operations kind of falls into that big group. And then the weird mix is this IT group, right, where we spend a lot of time in the Qlik platform.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's a weird mishmash.
It is, and I remember kind of as we were in the midst of a sales cycle, there was a promotion in there, and I feel like your title got even more interesting than what it was before.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you get to make up your own title? Was that part of the?
No, I wish I did. Right, it would be
Okay.
way cooler than it is today. But no, it's been a fun journey. At Lintech, I started off as a commercial role as a sales rep a little over 10 years ago, and then director of sales, and then transitioned into technology and sales operations. And so it's just been it's a weird circuitous route, I guess you could say, to get to where I am. But love what I'm doing now. It's a lot of fun.
That is interesting, and I'll pause there for a minute because it is unusual that salespeople also can always ask for new technology and all that stuff, but it's rare that the director has that role too, to try to figure out that balance of what is going to ultimately help, what integrates well. So has that made some of that transition for sales easier? Because sales always want new technology to help them sell
Yeah.
better, right? Has that
Yeah.
actually been helpful? Has that hindered? How's that worked out?
I think it's always, when I came up through the sales ranks, a little over 14, 15 years ago, one of the things that I found, as a sales rep in the chemical industry is just it's just not a lot of information that was traditionally shared with the sales rep. CRM at that point was not, what it is today. I mean, certainly there's a number of really great platforms out there on the CRM side that share a lot of, especially today in the sense of analytics, right? They've got their own embedded analytics and solutions in that space. But 13, 14 years ago, they didn't really have robust systems. And certainly when you get into the manufacturing spaces that like that I was in, that rely on SAP, they really weren't doing anything in that space. So always felt challenged in the sense of having the right kind of knowledge to make more informed decisions, because a lot of sales organizations, their reps are fairly autonomous, right? And there's a lot of power in giving sales reps autonomy, whether that be pricing autonomy or other decision-making autonomy. And so as an organizational leader, coming up through the ranks at Lintech, one of the things that we really wanted to be, sensitive to is making sure that our reps had and maintained as much autonomy as they could, right? And well, in order to feed that autonomy, you really need to feed them with a lot of intelligence so that they can not only just make good decisions or quick decisions and good decisions, but informed decisions, right? And I think that's the key for any sales organization if you want to have that group that can operate with quite a bit of autonomy, right? And so that was the key for us, and we didn't have great tools at the time. I mean, I would say we had good tools that were really built around the customer, but our business model, as a distributor, we're really focused on stakeholders that are external, right? Because we represent manufacturers, and so Lintech as a company has to perform well, right? So we have our organizational stakeholders. But we also have, supplier principal stakeholders that are obviously intimately invested in how we perform, not only as a business, right? Because they want a sustainable distributor that they can work with, but they also want a distributor that can perform well for them, right? And so we needed a framework, a lens, a tool that we could look at the performance of our suppliers through different lenses, right? Rather than just through the Lintech organizational lens. And so we needed an analytics platform that was robust enough for us to to put together some analytics that changes that lens, right? And so when we're working for supplier A or B or C, we can change the lens with which we view performance. And obviously, Qlik gives us a great tool to do that, with the associative engine and the analytics and being able to filter and do all the things that we need to do. And it's really been, I think, really helpful for us. And so the sales organization, from a standpoint of benefiting from that, just I think really more than anything, it's about speed to knowledge, right? Institutionalizing knowledge in a way that we hadn't been able to do prior, and really keeping that level of autonomy at a high level.
You're looking at BI tools. I'm assuming you looked at a couple. What made Qlik stand out?
Oh, I'd like to give you like this grand story, but I mean, it was really the simplicity, right? I think, you guys made it accessible for, well, so for us, if you go back, so Lintech did not have any business analytics, any business intelligence experience. We had no experience in dashboards or any software associated with that. So we really came into the view of analytics very, very green, right? And so, and with no expertise, right? And so that was being spearheaded by a director of sales, not an IT person, not a data analyst, none of that stuff, right? So I was pretty passionate about the need for some sort of analytics platform, and really didn't have a lot of knowledge. And so what you guys did, Qlik made it just accessible, right, with their free desktop software, right? And that's really what tipped the scales, right? At the time when I was looking, you guys had a free entry into the platform, and then an enormous amount of resources from a standpoint of the community. The Qlik community is can't say enough about what you can find in the community when you spend time and learn there, because you can solve a number of problems in the community, even that aren't specific to the question you're asking, but you can get your way there by doing some research. And so I think you guys just lowered the bar, right? And then understanding how the Qlik's associative engine works, and not having a data analysis background, right, and understanding how to data model appropriately. Associative engine really helps with that, I think, in a lot of different ways, especially for myself with the utter lack of experience that I had. And so it really just created a platform where we could jump into it really, really slow, and then grow really, really quickly within the platform, and get where we are today, which is obviously in the Qlik Cloud environment, and dipping our toe into a lot of other things.
So I want to go back to, I love that you said that we kind of made it easy to engage with. So think about, there's other customers looking at this, there's always professional services, right? There's partners that you can involve with, but I know that you did a lot of work on your own. What's kind of advice to people who want to start dipping their toes in this, and what time it's going to take?
I think it's really up to the user, right, to decide how much time they want to invest. And we did use professional services for a little bit of the heavy lifting on the front end side, especially when we got to doing, we jumped in with Qlik on an on-prem model. And we didn't have a lot of experience on the server side doing those kinds of things. And so an implementation partner was absolutely critical. We still use them for other services now. It's really kind of neat that we're doing a lot of other things with that relationship that we built on the Qlik implementation side. And so I think the key really is just investing time and energy into learning. I spoke at one of your Qlik events in Dallas not too long ago, and told everybody, here I am, a guy with a chemistry degree, speaking at a data analytics conference, and I didn't really graduate from anything other than University of YouTube and Google, right? Because I just invested a lot of time and energy into it, and it's probably a testament to the environment that someone like me can to get to where we are as an organization with Qlik, having just done what I would call basic research, right? Where you spend the time invested in. You guys have got great video series. Mike does a fantastic job.
Shout out. If you're not following Mike Tarallo, follow him on LinkedIn.
You should follow him.
Yeah, he's 60. All the stuff he's dropping, it's great. It's great stuff.
He does a great job there. And again, it's the Qlik community itself is just a wonderful network of resources with the groups that you guys have there. And so I think it's just that, it's a testament to the environment that somebody without any skills or training can come in and get up to speed within a fairly short period of time. That learning curve for us was probably about 12 to 16 months, start to, from a standpoint of investigating, starting the desktop software, and then running in an on-prem environment, where we're doing a lot of the maintenance ourselves in the sense of dashboard development, report generation, and things of that nature.
So in 2022, a good looking and smart sales guy came to you
Yep.
and said, hey, people are moving cloud. Hopefully it didn't come off of you have to do this. I've always tried to approach it
Yep.
like, where are you guys at? What are you thinking about? And you said, let's dig in and start asking. So can you speak to why Lintech was ready to move to Qlik Sense SaaS or on cloud?
Yeah. So I think starting the framework, there was no real disappointment in anything that was happening in the on-prem environment, right? With the Qlik Sense platform, it was doing everything that we wanted it to do, but we were becoming curious about, machine learning and predictive analytics, and that's really what started the conversation with you guys with Qlik Cloud is the Auto ML feature, right? And so we engaged you guys around Auto ML. We're really excited about some of the things that we could be able to do with that, and still have planned to look at or develop, I should say. And that's really what started it. And then started just looking at where, obviously, you guys, Qlik is doing you're doing a lot of investment in the Qlik Cloud environment, and that's very, very clear that that's where your time and energy and money and resources are going, and we just wanted to be associated with that kind of development cycle, right? And so ML was the first kind of red light that said, hey, we really should be paying attention over here to what Qlik's doing and where they're doing it. And so that started the conversation. And now that we're in cloud, I think we've made a really, really good decision, because one of the things that's the byproduct of being in cloud is that the user interface is really unique compared to the on-prem environment, in the sense of how much access you give the regular user to manipulate and do some things that they want to do, right? And so we rolled out cloud about 6 or 8 months ago with our sales organization. We're still doing a little bit on-prem, have a plan to kind of get through that in the next 6 to 8 months to get off the on-prem environment and fully into cloud. But one of the things that's most attractive to our sales organization is the alerting and the subscriptions, right? And so, one of the, I guess, negatives of having an analytics platform is you really challenge a lot of people to spend time in it, right? Otherwise, it's not worth the investment. And then the byproduct of it is you can really get, kind of paralysis by analysis, right? And so, so alerting and subscriptions is an attractive tool, I think, to make sure that our guys don't get, use this phrase, dashboard fatigue, to where they can spend more time focusing on their sales efforts, and having an analytics platform do the work in looking at the things that they would normally look at on a daily basis, and just alert them or send them reminders via subscriptions or whatever they've got set up, and they can do that and control it on their own, right? I think that's what's most attractive to us, is that we don't have to have a Qlik power user in the background setting all that stuff up for them with every single request. We're going to spend some time this year investing in teaching them how to do that, and then turning it over to them and letting them see how they want to use it, because ultimately they're going to be the most creative users of subscription and alerting, right? They're going to come with some use cases that we're not going to think of as executives in the organization. So that's, I think, is really what's exciting. And then, of course, kind of circling back to the Auto ML equation, right, is can we do some things from a predictive standpoint to be very proactive in how we engage with our customers, right? Whether that be some forecasting models, customer churn rates, those kinds of things, understanding, how do we leverage the technology to be not just in the rearview mirror informed, but in the windshield informed. And I think if we can to take full advantage of the suite in the cloud environment, we can get there.
Yeah. So I want to go back to I want to mention a couple things. You just spoke to 2 key pieces. One was self-service. How do we put analytics in the hands of the users? But the key second part, because I hear this all the time, is we want self-service. And usually one of my follow-up questions is, great, we can do that. How are you planning to train people? Right. So can you speak to kind of that ability of like, we want self-service, just what you said, we want to get people to be able to do it because they have their own thoughts. They're going to use this the way they know how, but you have realized without training, it's just wild, and they aren't going to know how to use it. Speak to kind of your plans and your thoughts on that.
Well, it starts with user adoption, right? So they have to understand the value of the platform first, right? And so so that's a journey for any organization that's thinking about getting into analytics, right? Is that you have to create a platform that they can pull value from. So we've created some apps that do that, I think. We also, we used to do a lot of email reporting, right, where we would send spreadsheets and things of that nature to our sales team. Well, so the first thing we did was turn that off, right, and said, well, if you want access to the historical information you used to, get, you're going to have to go to Qlik to get it now, right? And so we really kind of cut down the barriers to resistance and said, we have a single source of truth for analytics, and it's the Qlik platform, right? And so that's, I think you have to start there and really, make sure that your employees understand the value of analytics, and they can see the value and how they interface with it, right? So that has to start. Once you've done that, though, I think if you can create enough appetite there in the value of the platform and the value of what you're sharing with them through the platform, then I think getting over that hurdle of teaching them how to do self-service, I think, is actually pretty low. Had a call with one of our teammates about 2 weeks ago. They were looking at a customer that was requesting a weekly inventory report, right? And it's like, and we don't have a mechanism to do that with any other software platform. And so I brought the guy on the screen, and we had some screen time, and I said, hey, let's go into Qlik. Let's go to we have an inventory app. We have a visualization there that doesn't share anything other than just some product volumes and whether it's on hand or on order. Set a subscription to that, have it sent to your email inbox, and then put a rule in Outlook, and it'll forward that to the customer every week. Right. And the rep was like, oh man, that's, so it's just, for him, he was going to have to manually screenshot, plug it into an email, and send it in the span of probably
remember
5
to do
minutes.
that. Remember to do that every week.
Every week.
Manual,
right?
more manual tasks. Right.
Yeah. Set a reminder. And so this just automated a workflow for him in the Qlik environment that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And so it was really funny just watching him as I'm explaining to him how to do everything. It's just, his eyes are lighting up, because you could see, I think I could use this for several other things. And if I do this with this, and he was spitting off 2 or 3 use cases that I think I hadn't thought of. And it was fun to watch. And I think the key really is that if you have a team that understands the value of the platform and the value of the analytics, getting them to self-service, I think, is actually a relatively low bar. Because what I've learned is that nobody wants to come to Jason every other day and say, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Right. We have a lot of really smart, talented people in our sales organization. And they might actually like to hear me say that out loud every once in a while. So we might have to snippet this out and send it to them.
I can cut that out. Yeah.
So but we have really smart, talented people, right? And so they have a thirst for knowledge. Otherwise, I don't think they'd be in this industry selling these kinds of products, right? And so giving them the ability to manage their territories, their customers, the way that they want, using the tools how they want, I think is a really powerful story for them, right? So I don't think it's really a matter of how do we get them motivated to do self-service. It's just, how do we create value on the platform so that they want to do that on their own.
You were mentioning alerting for sales. And again, I sit on this side and we talk about this to prospects, to customers all the time. But why I love talking to customers who are using it is you give some ideas of how you're using it. Can you give us a couple options about how your salespeople are currently using alerting to help drive them to go back in to look at things rather than do the paralysis analysis that you were mentioning before?
Yeah, so I think, the inventory thing that we just talked about, that's a great one. One of the things that you learn about our organization if you spend time with us is we run relatively lean, right? So we're, as a distributor, more than 50% of our staff is commercially facing staff, right? So we invest heavily in the sales organization and the sales staff. And so we get into the operations side and customer service, we're really lean because we can afford to do that, because we have some really talented people that allow us to operate lean in a lean fashion. But so inventory management, I think, is a really interesting concept for alerting, because we rely on demand planning software and a couple of individuals in the office to manage 2,500 SKUs and another 2,500 customers, right? So when you start marrying those customer product combinations together, you can see how complicated the business gets. And so and this is not to knock our team in the office, but that's a lot for disparate systems that we have to work together to figure out how to do that, right? So alerting creates a platform where we've institutionalized this idea that everybody can be looking at inventory, and everybody can be setting up alerts related to inventory levels that might be unique to their customer, right? And so creating an environment where our sales reps understand that certain customers have sensitive needs with respect to inventory that maybe not be picked up in a demand planning model, right? And our reps can set alerts that are specific to the season that we're in. They can set alerts that are specific to new product development or product life cycles with their customers. And then they can be champions internally with our organization, with the operations team, to say, hey, I'm concerned about our inventory levels here. And it really creates more of a proactive culture within our organization rather than waiting for somebody to say that we're out. We have reps now that have the potential with fully implemented alerting here to start being proactive with operations and saying, hey, my customer is going to start ordering. I see that inventories drop below certain levels. You might want to, draw inventory up. And it really is just about creating dialogue, I think, more than anything else, and where we typically don't have dialogue. So inventory management, I think, is unique. Could be something as simple as, a brand new customer product combination that comes in. So our reps are compensated on what we call incremental wins, right? So any new customer product combination that's created in the system, we call that a win, and the system tracks that. And so they're always going in and looking at their wins, right, to see how that's triggering bonuses. And so they can click alerts or create alerts now that ping them proactively and says, hey, you have a win, rather than them trying to go through the system and investigate. That's a good use case, I think. They could certainly look at bonus, when certain wins hit bonus thresholds, creating alerts around that. And then when thresholds change and compensation increases, they could create alerts around that. So one of the biggest use cases for Qlik with our sales organization has been around bonus analytics, right? And so, I think it's the bane of most executives' existence, right? How do you create a compensation plan that works for both stakeholders, right? So as an executive sitting in a room thinking about bonus plans, one thing you think of is you're like, well, I don't want to create something that's so easy that pays them a lot of money that I don't really like the results. And I don't want to create a bonus program that gives me exactly what I want, but doesn't necessarily reward them very well either, right? And so, that conversation around bonus can be really tricky for executives. And so the challenge we've had historically is we've tried to create really simple programs that solve really complex problems with performance. And so analytics, Qlik has given us a really good tool to create a little bit more complicated bonus program. But the analytics makes it so easy for our team to understand, how they're performing. And so I think if you have to create a complicated bonus program, you need an analytics platform to do it. But the key there is that you have something that's transparent, right? That and the BI gives us that transparency so they can see everything that's happening within their bonus environment in real time. And they can challenge what they see if they don't like it, right? Like, I don't understand why my number's here. And it creates a lot of dialogue internally around the structure of our programs, why they're working the way that they're working. And really, it helps our reps understand, more importantly, the strategy of what we're trying to execute as an organization. So, not gotten on too big of a tangent there with alerting, but I think it's just around creating a lot more transparency with the teams, and allows them to be proactive on the things that they're doing. We did something a little bit different but we not only show them the analytics around their bonus, but we put in some what if analysis with some sliders. Ooh. So that if they can manipulate their plan, and so because we have what we call a cascading win, right? Where once it hits a win comes into the bucket, we want them to keep earning against that win. And then the more it grows, the more it pays. So it cascades into up to 8 different buckets, and each bucket pays out more than the previous bucket. And it's not a linear relationship. It's actually, it's a curve, right? So it's exponential, right? And so as the buckets fill up, the curve goes up really, really rapidly. And so we wanted them to see what happens as they waterfall their wins into other buckets. And because that's really about getting additional orders, right? It's not about the first transaction, it's about every transaction. And so we wanted that what if analysis to kind of inspire them to continue to push and drive business. And so I don't, if you've got Qlik and you're not using it for that, I think it's a really big miss, right? Because it can really create more than it, because I think if you're a sales guy, one of the things that you look at when you look at bonus plans is, what are the executives keeping from me, right? Like, could they be paying me more? And so we put it out there in a whiteboard, right? And said, here's all the moving parts. Here's the math. We showed them the math calculations, the y equals mx plus b, and then x squared plus x plus, whatever calculations that we've used. We've showed them the charts where the math drives the performance, and then we show them an analytics platform that does all the math for them. And then about once a quarter, I'll get an email from the team saying, hey, my numbers don't look right. And we'll spend some time looking at the data. And sometimes it's just a system limitation where, you create formulas and not every formula can catch everything that's going on in the background. And so we have some exception forms that we allow them to fill out and submit. And at the end of the year, we make a correction based on the exception form. So I don't know. I think it's just really, for us, it's about creating transparency around the thing that can really erode trust when you're talking about sales reps and money, right? If they feel like they've been slided on a plan, you can lose some really talented people if you lose trust there. And so I think for us, not that we have a perfect plan, and if you polled our sales guys, you're going to have a mix of them that say they don't like what we're doing, and that's fair, right? It's not possible for us to make everybody happy, but what they can't say is that we haven't been transparent about it, right? And that we haven't opened up the book and shown them everything. And to me, that's the key from an organizational standpoint to build trust. I think that's really critical.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
And that's not just a bonus concept either, right? That's business 101, right? If our sales reps can see how they're performing, and they know we can see, and they can see how we're performing, and that transparency ultimately creates trust, as organizational trust across a number of different levels.
What are some of the challenges, the bumps you've hit from moving from an on-prem environment to a cloud environment that you weren't aware of, or weren't huge bumps, but like, man, I wish I would have known that or thought that through, just to share with others?
We haven't, and I would like to. It hasn't been too painful. I mean, one of the things that I think has been very helpful is having an ETL platform to maneuver data a little bit cleaner than we needed. So like on an on-prem environment, we basically pushed all our data to that server and did the things that we need to do. In cloud, we're not going to do that. So having an ETL platform can, I think, be really helpful for anybody looking at an on-prem versus cloud environment. Doing some of that data manipulation before you get it to cloud, I think, can be very, very helpful for customers that are looking at going to cloud, because obviously you guys have some system limitations, right? App size limitations, those kinds of things. And so just addressing those before you get data there can be, I think, really, really helpful. We were using, our biggest pain point on the move is really, it's been a system limitation on our end. We have a little bit of an archaic ERP platform that runs on Access databases, which I don't even like to admit that. So we've had to work around getting Access data up to cloud, and so that's part of the reason we use an ETL platform that solves that problem for us really easily. But all in all, I think it's been pretty seamless. I mean, you guys make it really easy. You have certain data integration tools that you guys use to move data from on-prem environment into cloud. We've done a lot of just transferring, taking on-prem data, converting it to QBDs, and just pushing those into the cloud and running, so that we're running most systems with the same data, which has been pretty helpful. And so I don't know, I really don't have any bones to pick about the migration. We were a year in, and that's a Lintech problem. It's not a Qlik problem. We expected a 2-year roadmap, just simply because of, like I mentioned earlier, we have mostly sales reps in our staff, not a bunch of IT whizzes, and so it's been a I won't say easy journey, but it hasn't been challenging for us at all.
Jason, thanks so much for sharing all that today. I really appreciate you taking the time. Look Jason up on LinkedIn. Always been willing to share tips, tricks with other people.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoyed the chat.